Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Samson. This was bar none the craziest daily I've played up until this point, not only in Afterbirth Plus but also Afterbirth, and at this point I think I have like 300 to 400 dailies behind me, and I have to tell you, besides maybe the special dailies, this was definitely the one that kinda just kept on giving. It wasn't even that crazy in terms of maybe which items I got, it was just crazy in the case of what the run had in store for us, and it was definitely one of those runs that you feel like you're at the end of it, and it just kind of keeps on giving on. It's maybe akin to when you try to finish a project, maybe you're coding something or whatever, and as soon as you're at the end, you maybe think of a new addition that you can add to your project. You say, maybe I'll add this little thing. And because you kind of feel obligated to that project, that you don't just want to abandon it, just go on to the next one. You feel like, maybe this little addition wouldn't hurt. It would make the whole project maybe a bit more wholesome. And I'll just add it. What can go wrong? And of course, as soon as you add it, what ends up happening is that there's more to add. Maybe you break something, maybe something else comes up, but eventually you just kind of keep on adding on and on, and you just kind of just keep improving on that same old project. And this run felt exactly the same. I just wanted to abandon it at some point just because of how long it took, but because of the run, because I feel like I'm obligated to kind of play these dailies to the best, and especially since yesterday I kind of got some little extra motivation from seeing that Northern Lion is just one rank below me on the all-time leaderboards, and that was quite tilting in some sense. Not tilting because I don't think that he's a better player. I think that in some cases he is a better player, but more tilting in the case that even though I've played so many dailies, just because of how the system works, some people can catch up to me, and I don't really want to drop out of the top 100, and that's maybe a bit petty in some cases, but obviously, I still think that this is a healthy competition, and I try to maintain that aspect of these videos, of these dailies. Obviously, that's also why I'm tryharding in some cases, but yeah, nevertheless, just because I felt like I have some obligation and some motivation to do it, I just felt like I had to take all these advantages that the game gave to me, and I think I did to some extent, but at the same time, I don't think I've ever played worse on a daily, at least just in terms of raw damage penalty that I got, and you'll see at the end, it gets pretty wild. Besides that, this run, just because we're Samson, does roll on some things if you want to get going. One really good thing about Samson is that even if you get no damage upgrades or no DPS upgrades, you can still stay relevant late into the game if you can just find a way to kind of trigger your damage passive, your Bloody Lust. In this case, and because maybe that's a bit hard to do on the dark room or maybe the later floors, just because sacrifice rooms aren't that common, and also because you really have no way of damaging yourself for only half a heart. Basically any hit you take will take a full heart of damage, and I think the damage caps off at 6 or 7 hits, so that at that point that's essentially more than half of your maximum HP, and it's not always guaranteed that you're even gonna find that many HP upgrades or that many spirit hearts which you can trade away, and even in that case you really usually not want to trade their spirit hearts away to just get a damage boost. It's much better actually going to the room, try to complete it as fast as possible, obviously, and if you do manage to get hit somehow, you still get that damage bonus just from getting hit by an enemy. Obviously it's a much greater chance, or maybe just better, if you can trigger the boost or the damage boost yourself, just because that means you don't take the damage penalty, but in some cases I would argue that it's better to kind of go the convoluted way about things. Obviously you never want to take damage intentionally, but at the same time you never really want to be at a very low HP, especially later on if you have no other DPS upgrades than just your passive item. Because of this, and because I think that one thing that is very important in Mom's dailies, or that go to Mom's food, is to find a way to go forward. And to find a way to go forward, usually the most reliable way of doing this is the sacrifice room. In this case, because we are kind of stuck in time, and because it's not, like I said before, not always guaranteed that we're gonna find health upgrades, it's important to kind of keep on to what we have. It's not guaranteed that we're gonna have 12 spirit hearts or just 12 hearts in total when we get to a sacrifice room, so it's important, I think, that we have some health containers to kind of back us up, so that we can kind of trade away our red hearts and then pick them up on the rest of the floor. Obviously it would be much better in this case if we had Child's Heart, and that's quite funny because I just harped on Child's Heart not too long ago saying it's useful, but kind of in my defense I did say it's useless on the first floor. I think that getting Child's Heart, especially later on, can be quite useful, especially if you're in a situation like this, but nevertheless, having some opposable heart containers and red health which we can trade away and then pick up, I think is a very important for kind of the meta game of just getting a high score, of getting there and just kind of sacrificing your health to the sacrifice room. So that's maybe the reason why I was going with that in this particular game. Another reason that kind of incentivized me to do it is that there weren't really no good devil deals, and I decided not to pick the devil deal up and just go the angel route. And my thinking in it, again, right there is just exactly the same. I really don't want to trade my red health away because I think it's a bit more precious in runs that only go to Mom's Heart. I mean mom's foot, but also in the same vein, if I get to the angel rooms, usually you do find items which give you more health, and because of that I could use those health, or maybe just find some spirit hearts, or even better, what it also allows you to do besides just getting more health, which you can then trade away of course, is beat the angel statues, and those angel statues actually give you like 300 to 400 points a piece, and that's actually very beneficial to us just in total, because I imagine that because I'm quite a slow player, and in this run especially you can see that it's the 25th minute and this is the 5th floor. For some reason the floors were unlargely huge in this particular run, and I don't really know why, and just because I figured that maybe I'm probably not gonna make it to boss rush, I need to find other avenues of getting more score if I really want to catch up with those people who did make it to boss rush. And decided to maybe go the angel room route, just because I can then kill the angel statues and maybe find some extra points that way, so maybe the gap between me and those players who did find a way to go to boss rush isn't as big. And I think that all in all, this strategy would have paid off if I actually got an angel deals or devil deals. I did get hit a few too many times, and because of the craziness that happened here, I didn't really have a chance to go to as many as I would wish, and I don't think I even beat one angel in this particular run, so that was maybe unfortunate, but this is definitely a solid strategy if you're maybe lagging behind. Going the angel room route, especially if you're feeling like you're strong enough, is a very good plan indeed. One thing that kind of also made me feel more comfortable is that we got this, not the snot goblin, but essentially it's an item that's very similar to the snot goblin, and I think it's called, I'm not really sure how it's called, but essentially every tier that we shoot has a chance of shooting snot, so to say, and that snot keeps and locks onto the enemy and just deals periodical damage. Usually that's not that useful because a lot of enemies do bounce around and kind of jump around, and because of that the snot drops down from them and it's not dealing any periodical damage. But against angels, because they have no way of getting away from you or going invincible, it's a very nice idea to kind of stack a lot of these effects on top of them, and then actually the DPS is quite huge, especially after some time. It's nice that we had a lot of luck, because I think it makes it more likely that we actually shoot these no shots. I'm not sure, maybe it's an item, one of those rare items that doesn't really scale with luck, but it would make sense because a lot of the other items do. So in that case, I felt like I had a good kind of run to tackle the angel statues. So maybe that was all my reasonings for the angel statues, and maybe it didn't pay out in this run, but I definitely still think it's a pretty solid strategy. Now, to go onto the craziness, you can see it's the 45th minute and we're still on the depths one. And the first reason was we had the 5 dice room that rerolled the whole floor, so the depths 1 or the necropolis 1, I'm not sure. And the second reason is we had another 5 pip dice room that rerolled the whole run. So yeah, I think we had 2 in total, so that means I did the 5th floor 3 times. That makes sense, 3 times in total, and then I went an additional floor, and I thought, it's over, I did the whole floor 3 times. I didn't really find any other runes to kind of go along with it. I was really hoping to find Mama Mega in the shop, or maybe finding a shovel in the devil deal, because the shovel would obviously allow me to go even deeper and explore 3 more floors, and Mama Mega would essentially allow me to do boss rush again, and that would also give me just a bunch of points. Sadly, I didn't find Mama Mega or the shovel, but I did find the blank card because I was really aggressive with rolling the shop. And because we had an Ava's room from before, that kind of functions like a shovel, which means that now we have 3 more floors to explore. And because we have the blank card, I'm really on the lookout for a Yarrow one. Another maybe unfortunate thing that happened is that we had 2 Curse of the Losts in a row, which means that I probably missed some rooms just because it's very hard to navigate in these conditions, obviously. Another maybe problematic thing that I messed up is that I should have taken a Dega's rune. For some reason I thought I had the cursed candle, the black candle, which removes the old curses. But now that I'm looking back at it, obviously I didn't have it because then I wouldn't have the curse. It was a very weird experience all in all, because I really thought that I was gonna have a better way of faring, and especially in these cases, finding second secret rooms is much more important, just because those second secret rooms do contain rooms with a lot of runes, which can contain a Yarrow rune. And previously in the round we did have one, but I think definitely in that position it's better to take than Awa's rune, because Awa's rune essentially allows you to do 1 more floor. And my plan for this particular game, if I didn't find this blank card, was to go to boss rush, and then use the Awa's rune to get out of it and do 1 more floor, and hope to find in the Womb 1 a sacrifice room or maybe another Awa's rune if I was really lucky. And of course, like I said, I didn't have a chance to make it, but the reason why I was rerolling the shop so aggressively was in hopes of finding Mama Mega, which would then allow me to do boss rush. And so if you didn't know, if you use Mama Mega on the floor with boss rush, it opens up boss rush even if it's after the 20th minute. I'm not sure if it worked with Hush. It only would make sense to do so, but then again, this game is so inconsistent that I don't really know, haven't tested it out. but I have definitely seen videos of people using Mama Megatope on boss rush. So up until this point, you know, I felt like it's gonna be over at Mom just because I didn't find any ways forward, maybe Womp 1 at most, but it didn't, you know. I found the blank card, I did go 3 more floors, and now we have 1 more floor to do the shoal. And up until this point, besides the Depths one, or maybe the Depths 2 or Necropolis, whatever, I think there was a sacrifice room there, but my overall strategy, or maybe my heuristic, I guess, for finding sacrifice room is if you have at least 2 more floors to explore, it's always better to wait. So essentially, let's say that if you're on the 3rd floor and you know that you're going to the 6th floor, and if you find a sacrifice room there, I wouldn't take it because I have 3 more floors to explore. I wouldn't even do it on the 4th one, but if I did find one on the 5th one or the 6th one, I would then take it to go to the dark room. So essentially, I always give myself 2 whole floors of buffer to hopefully find another sacrifice room. I know that some people, maybe that's not the optimal strategy, but I know that a lot of people do take very early sacrifice rooms. So like in this case, I think there was one on the 6th floor, but I had 3 more floors to explore. So we had the Womb 1, Womb 2, and Shoal. Some people probably took the one on the 6th floor, so in Necropolis too, and that's also good because it does give you a lot of points. But just because of how I think the statistics work, again, I didn't have the math, it's just like my internal heuristic, like how I think it's optimal to do things. I think it's always good to go to Womb 1, and then if you find a sacrifice room there, it's also good not to take it. So I would always take the sacrifice room in Womb 2 or Shoal, but I wouldn't take it any other way. I hope that made sense. I was kind of convoluted in the way of saying it, especially because there are alternate floors and I do get confused sometimes, but nevertheless I do hope you get what I'm saying. So at the end I'm like, okay, we go to Shoal, we use the AWAS runes 2 times with the blank card. Maybe I find a Yarrow rune here, so that's why I kind of leaving some consumables in the ground in hopes that I would be able to duplicate them later. But no, we didn't find a Yarrow rune, but what we did find is a sacrifice room, and because of how kind this run was, we also had some red hearts and just some soul hearts laying around the floor that we could use to actually sacrifice our health to get to the dark room. In this case, it did turn out that it was worth it, but only barely. It was worth it, at least in the raw bonus, but the bonus we get from the lamp is always worth it. So essentially, if you go to the dark room, if you notice maybe your score, it was around 30,000 before I went, and now it's like at 30,650, which is obviously a big increase of 600 points. But one thing you don't get for beating Shoal is an end stage bonus for just beating Shoal, but you do get, I think, 5,000 points for beating the lamp, so it's always a good idea to go to the dark room. I would say maybe the only thing you have to be wary of that you shouldn't explore if you feel like your run is weak, and that's definitely a mistake I've made before. I think whenever I decide to explore, I do take some very, very dumb damage, and that's quite unfortunate in some cases, but nevertheless, I think it does make for some more entertaining videos. What I feel is one of the things that I never really learn from my mistakes, and I think if one mistake that I just keep repeating is definitely this one, that I decide, you know, I think I'm strong enough, I think, you can see, you know, I'm pretty much melting these bosses, I can use a death card with a blank card, but it only takes 1 room with 2 adversaries and some very poorly timed attacks to get you into a lot of trouble, and for that reason I say that if you feel like you really can't one-shot these enemies, it's probably not a good idea to just keep exploring. But this did kind of bring this run to an end. It was very on the weak side, at least in terms of raw stats, but thankfully because of the items that we got, it turned out pretty well. I would definitely say that the biggest contributor of points in this case, besides just a huge exploration bonus, was Curse of the Tower, and that's of course the curse that spawns a lot of troll bombs around you whenever you get hit, but because we have safety scissors, all of those troll bombs turn into consumables, so getting hit wasn't that bad just because we did recuperate a lot of our points that we lost when we actually got hit, so that was definitely the MVP of this floor. But besides that, it was definitely this Snot Goblin item, so to say, which did just a ton of damage, especially in the dark room. There's a lot of enemies and just bosses which are kind of hard to deal with, but when you can stick like 5 or 6 snot shots on them, it really does do a lot of damage over time, and that was probably the reason why I also did make it so far that without taking too much damage. I want to say too much damage, but my damage penalty is 14,000, but I wanted to say that I made it this far without actually dying. But you can see that my damage penalty is 14,000, which is, I think, the highest damage penalty I've ever... I don't think, it is the highest damage penalty. And of course, a combination of a high damage penalty is just because it is scaled with exploration bonus. I think the more exploration bonus you have, the higher damage penalty is, but also the reason that for some reason in this run, I walked into all the fires. A lot of the damage I took was also just from high shot speed. When enemies were charging at me, I was trying to shoot them back and kind of avoiding them, but because when you shoot at an enemy from an angle, you kind of bounce them up, and when you go up, you try to bounce them down, and they bounced up again. You know what I'm saying? Basically, when an enemy is charging at you, you're trying to shoot him away from you, but for some reason you just shoot him into yourself. And I think that happened like 5 or 6 times during the course of this whole run. That was quite unfortunate, but nevertheless, I'm so glad we did come to an end. It took me an hour and 20 minutes, and I know that I could have broke it in some way if I did look harder. I didn't in this case. If I did find the black handle, I definitely think that this would be a little bit better, just because I did miss some exploration bonus from the Womb 1 and Womb 2 just due to the Curse of the Lost. But nevertheless, I'm still very satisfied with this run. You should definitely try it out. I feel so sorry for those people who went to boss rush and just skipped the 5 dice room, because that one first 5 dice room just starts this whole chain reaction and just really makes this run super crazy. Nevertheless, it was a fun run. I hope you enjoyed it, guys, and I hope to see you next time.